Voices drift on winds untamed, words like spells that can't be named. Close your eyes and feel the sound. Journey where no bounds are found. Open doors inside your mind. Leave the ordinary far behind. Colors swirl and stars align. In the meta mysteries you'll find.
Welcome to Meta Mysteries, where you don't know what you don't know. My name's Jonathan.
I'm Sean.
And today is going to be so much fun for an episode. This is, it's borderline conspiratorial, I gotta say. Because whenever I stumbled across it, I was like, wait a second. That's kind of weird, you know? So we're going to be getting into the etymology of a daemon. Daemon. Some people say it very different. We just looked it up how to say it. I've seen it spelled so many times. I've read about it so many times, but I never heard it said. So some people say Daemon. I think that's what we're going to go with.
Yeah, dude. And I'm really excited for this episode, you know, just with all of the things that we cover, man. And you know, the demons or the daemons being one of those entities that's kind of, I mean, it's very popular, you know, in culture to bring that up. And personally, I feel like it's to bring upon fear. But you know what? Let's just see what it's all about, dude.
All right. So first of all, welcome in the one. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Very excited to see all of you. And it's always fun doing the Wonder Wiz Day shows because it's like, it's extra energy going on here. And it just,
I can feel it, dude. Every time.
Yeah, I feel it big. I feel it in my britches. No, I'm just kidding. So White Boy Wizard said, "What up, fam? What it do, White Boy Wizard?" No. Nora said, "What's up, fuckers? Excited for the topic today. Hope everyone had a great week so far." Taylor said, "What's up, weirdos?"
Indeed.
You know, it's like a badge of honor to be called a weirdo now.
Absolutely, dude. You can't be normal in a crazy world. You know what I mean?
No, you can't. So, yeah, let's get into it. And we're not talking about demons, okay? Even though that's what history would like to tell you. That's what this word means.
Yep.
So Daemon, Daemon or Daemon. We're just gonna say
however
Daemon.
you like saying it, dude. Just go with that.
Daemon. It's basically demon with an A. All right. So Daemon, the forgotten guardian of your soul, is it your higher self?
Oh, okay.
Baby. Yeah. Okay. It's going to be a naughty episode. All right. So exploring the divine spirit within from ancient Greece to modern mysticism. So we're just going to get this question out in the open to get the ball rolling, because I feel like so many people have been conditioned to look at daemon and demon as the same exact thing. Now, demon does have its etymological roots all the way back to Daemon. So that is where it started. And you're going to be able to see the process of how it eventually converted. And it'll make a lot of sense. Especially if you're pretty well versed in like biblical history and stuff. Like if you look back to Emperor Constantine and Council of Nicaea and all that craziness that was going on back in those times, this is going to tickle your religious and spiritual pickle today, baby.
Oh, dude, I'm ready, man.
So when was Daemon turned into demon? So the transition from daemon, or which literally translated back then to divine guide, or to demon, which is known as an evil spirit, was not a single event, but a gradual shift that took place between the 1st and 5th centuries as Christianity expanded through the Greco-Roman world. So here's the timeline and the key players. So first off, you got in the 1st century BC. You have daemons or daemons still are respected as they're known by, not necessarily dark and demonic and, evil minions of Satan or anything just yet. And so this was in Greek and in Roman thought. So these were the people that were specifically bringing up the word daemon. Okay. So in Greek culture, especially in Plato, Hesiod, and the Stoics, daemons were neutral or benevolent spirits, divine intermediaries, often equated with one's higher self or genius. Also where the term genie comes from, by the way.
Oh, okay.
That's a topic for another day. But so yeah, even in Roman culture, under figures like Cicero and Seneca, the Latin daemonium still carried mostly positive or neutral connotations. So,
not necessarily good or bad, just kind of, just that intermediary or whatever in between you and your higher self, or what do you think?
Well, essentially, it's kind of like it's like your noose in a sense. So it's like
what you're contemplating,
your rainbow
basically.
bridge to God, to the universe, to the source, whatever you want to call it. Essentially,
how you connect.
Your connection. Yeah.
Okay.
So first you got Cicero in the 1st century BC. His quote was, "No man was ever great without a touch of divine inspiration, his own daemonium." So daemonium and daemon, same word, just different people saying it. So yeah. So he believed, you're not going to get anywhere fast if you don't have, if you're not connected to your daemon. And that's what it was talking about. Like, it was literally your connection to the all. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that was Latin, Cicero there. So then you move forward to the 1st and 2nd century CE, which is the rise of Christianity and the birth of demonization. So as early Christians began writing theological texts and preaching in the Roman Empire, they rejected pagan spirituality, as everybody knows, even though they brought in a lot of pagan kind of,
ideologies.
things.
Yep.
Especially anything invoking gods or spirits outside of the Christian God. So they rejected the pagan ideology and spirituality almost wholeheartedly whenever it came to, the upper echelons. We might still keep your little traditions and we'll still say the same words. And hey, we might even, celebrate Christmas on fucking, the winter solstice. You know what I mean? But for the most part, yeah, they tried to get rid of anything that was godlike, equal to, or higher.
Right. Okay. So anything so they're trying to eliminate any kind of false idols, things of that nature.
False idols, yeah.
Right. Okay.
I'll say that with quotations.
Right.
And they make it out to be such a silly thing. That's not what the pagans were about, though, bro. Like, if the deeper you look into like what actual paganism was all about, you had your shitheads, as you would in every, spiritual group, religious group, or whatever. But for the most part, all a pagan was just somebody who, like, they were working with the land. They were working with the spirits of the land. And, they looked at everything in kind of like a spiritual kind of way. In, a lot of the ways, not to get too too diluted here, but like how the Native Americans, how they talk to the land and they talk to the wind and they talk to the sky and stuff like that.
Right.
That's essentially kind of what the pagans were doing in a sense.
Because you're one with that, you know what I mean? You're not worshiping it necessarily.
Exactly. I mean, dude, you're working literally with the stars and the placement of the stars in the sky, and you're letting the sky and the stars tell the story about what's going to be coming, and you're, it's working together with it. And so anyway, we'll do a whole other show on paganism because it's a pretty wild rabbit hole to start diving into, like a lot of their ancient beliefs and stuff.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of misconceptions, so it'd be nice to clear that up, I think, even for myself. Just to get just a clearer understanding of the whole thing and where it started. And I know we've covered it before, but yeah, I think we might have to go around the block again, dude.
Oh, yeah, dude. So one of the earliest shifts came in the New Testament writings, which was, the Jesus writings, essentially. So the Greek word daemonian or Daemonian, which is a diminutive of Daemon or Daemon, was used to describe evil spirits or unclean spirits that Jesus casted out. So already right there, that's where it's kind of brought in. That was in the New Testament, which was, I mean, it was written. Nobody knows exactly when it was written. Some people
They
say
don't know exactly when it was written?
well, because if you think about it, the Bible is just a compilation of a bunch of different books.
Oh, right.
And so there's 66 books of the Bible and so many in the New Testament, so many in the Old Testament. So a lot of the New Testament books were written obviously after Jesus
Way
died.
after.
Like
way after, right?
Well, after Jesus died. And that's really the question because, you know, and this is a whole side tangent we're probably going to get into, but so Jesus, people don't even agree on what year he died. Some people say 32 AD, some people say 30 AD, some people say 33 AD. Yeah. I always looked at it as like the year of our Lord. That's literally what we call like the year that we're in, right? So if Jesus was born in year 0, let's just say that he was born in year 0, then it would make sense that he would have died in 32 AD because year 0 still counts as a year, right?
Oh, okay.
Right. And so I don't know, it's weird, but anyway, so he ended up dying, you know, in the 30s AD, and after he died, then people started, you know, writing books and stuff like that. But if you go into the 4 main gospels of the Bible with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, those stories, depending on who you ask, some people say it was written directly after Jesus died. Some people say it was written while Jesus was still living. And others say, well, no, it was actually not even written until about 70 or 80 AD at the very earliest. And I believe that one, don't quote me on this, I believe the first one that they believe was written was the Gospel of John.
Okay.
But it's been a minute since I looked into it. But yeah, it's
that's a long time, though. It's like a whole lifetime.
Oh, you're talking about 50, 60 years at least after his death. And so, you know, it almost became mythological just with the time, you know?
Right.
So anyhow, so it says these were likely not meant to be direct references to the Greek daemon, but the word itself got rebranded in early Christian usage. So they're rebranding words now. So if you were a pagan and you were, you know, in communication with your daemon or your demon, well, now, whoa, hold on. You're talking to demons now, you know?
Right.
Can't be doing all that.
Anything not of this right here, you know?
Exactly. Because they want you to worship God and Jesus that, you know, are outside of you, which it doesn't even say that in the Bible, but that's what a lot of people believe. So then we move forward to the 2nd and 3rd century CE or AD. I don't know. I mean, CE, AD, whatever.
Whatever you like.
And so in the 2nd and 3rd century AD, you had Justin Martyr, Origen, and Tertullian. Never heard of some of these names, but these were early church fathers that started explicitly teaching that pagan gods were demons in disguise and that all daemons were evil entities sent by Satan.
Of course.
So it starts right there in the 2nd
There's
and 3rd centuries.
There's a lot of them too, you know? He sent a shit ton.
Oh, well, you know? I mean, said to be like a third of God's angels or something like that. Right.
Right.
So you had Justin Martyr, as we talked about before. He was alive in 150 AD, or he said this in 150 AD. He goes, the gods of the pagans are demons. Just outright.
Yeah.
He declared that daemons misled the nations away from the one true God.
Okay.
Just reminds me of Game of Thrones when people start talking about that. You know what I mean?
The thing I wonder whenever we talk about the Bible and things like this is like, before the Bible was written, what was going on? People were just misinformed. They were just kind of doing their own thing. You know what I mean? Until these books came out and it was like, this is the truth. Like, what about before that?
Well, I mean, you had the Old Testament, which was Jewish, and that, I don't know exactly even how far that goes back. I don't know when that, you know, I say Old Testament, it's the Torah, which are, you know, that's what the Jews look, you know, that's what that's their Bible essentially, right? And so I believe that goes back to not exactly 1000 BC, but somewhere like a while back, you know?
Right. Okay.
And then obviously the New Testament came after that once Jesus was born and, you know, did his whole thing.
Yeah, 'cause that's just one thing I always wonder about. It's like, why wait so long to give us this information through a prophet and to show us the way? Like all those people before just had no idea.
Well,
You
and
know,
that's the thing too.
like the pagans, and you know what I mean?
And I'm not like the biggest fan of science, to be honest with you, because a lot of it's very bought and paid, and I'm not going to get into that. But y'all know I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I'm going to take it there. But what science says is that humanity, the Homo sapiens sapien of which we are, goes back to 300,000 years was whenever the first human as we know them were around, and then you even go back 50,000 years, in I believe South Carolina, where they found some kind of pottery that dates back 50,000 years, pottery with painting and carvings and shit on it. 50,000 years it dates back. So yeah, it's a good question. Where was these teachings and everything?
Why did he wait so long to send some information to this said prophet, and say, spread this message? Because before that, everyone else just was so misinformed, just kind of worshiping whatever they wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. And by the way, this is not going to be a Christianity bashing type of episode. We respect everybody's
just
beliefs.
Out of curiosity.
It's just more so, like trying to get into the mind of God, which, say what you will about that. But yeah, it's weird how it all transpired in the timeline that it all transpired as well. So yeah, Justin Martyr saying that the gods of the pagans are daemons, which translates to demons. Then you have Origen. He was another early church father. He was around from 185 to 253 AD. And his quote is, "All daemons are evil and the cause of men's sins." So at this point, the word daemonium, I don't know how to say that damn word, in Latin no longer meant inner guide. It had become synonymous with satanic influence at this point.
So if you're catching a download, or you're talking to your higher self, or I don't know, whatever it could be, it's like, no, don't listen to that. That's not the right answer. That's evil. Listen to what we're saying.
Exactly. Yeah, don't trust yourself and don't trust your spirit, even though it literally says in the Bible, the kingdom of heaven is within you.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And even in, is it Matthew 6:22? If therefore thine eye be single, then your whole body should be full of light.
Damn, you just called that out, huh? That's your favorite, right?
Not gonna lie, it's one of my favorites. So I don't know all of them, but I plan on getting that tattoo one day.
Right.
So now we jump ahead to the 4th century, and this is where Augustine seals the deal. So Augustine rather. So Saint Augustine was around from 354 to 430, and in his book called The City of God, it says, this is his quote. He goes, "The daemons, though sometimes appearing to help humans, are in fact malicious, leading souls away from salvation."
But they appear to be doing good, Yeah,
it's like sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. This is the whole idea of the jinn, by the way, as well.
Right. Okay.
And this is what we're talking about, the daemon and the genius. They're always interconnected, which we're going to do a whole episode on the genius and the genie and the jinn and that whole correlation right there as well. But it's all talking about the same thing. Like, it's not talking about your brain and your egoic mind or your human mind or anything like that. It's the quiet mind that speaks to you, essentially. Some people call that your higher self or your inner spark or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, they're saying that, like, well, I mean, they are in fact malicious, and they lead you away from salvation, which
clearly.
So Augustine,
anything not of God basically is okay.
Yeah, get in line, kind of stuff. Yep. But Augustine's writing became foundational for Western Christian doctrine, and he fully codified the idea that daemons equals demons. So it was around this time, nobody was questioning it anymore. Like, people just kind of forgot. I mean, which, several hundred years have gone on. And so traditions are constantly being wiped away, especially during the Crusades, and everybody's dying that's not going along to get along with, emperors and whatnot. But yeah, it's unfortunate. So this was the final blow to the original meaning. From here on, in the Latin-speaking church, daemonium equals evil spirit. genius, daemon, and guide equal heretical or dangerous to follow?
A guide, even.
Yep.
You know, like, so when are you supposed to know if God's talking to you? You know, that's what I want to know. What's the difference?
Well, first of all, you have to be religious, because if you're not religious, then surely God wouldn't give you a message.
I'm not even open to it to begin with. Right?
I mean, yeah, okay. I've talked, to numerous amounts of Christians about my whole Elohim story, and they're like, "Oh, are you Christian?" No. Well, that must have been a demon then. Sorry.
Right. Like, yeah, you were fooled, dude. You were tricked. You know.
Oh my God. But anyway, all right. So yeah. Okay, here we go. So by the Middle Ages, from 500 to 1500 AD, the word demon in English developed from Old French demon, which came from Latin daemonium, which originally came from the Greek daemon. But by this time, all association with the original Greek meaning was gone. Demon meant hellish, possessive, and satanic. So just to give a little summary here about, the years of the breakdown, about how it all happened, you have the pre-1st century CE, so let's just say 1st century BC, right? Daemon equals divine guide, inner genius, and spirit. Moved toward the first and second century AD. Daemonian, used in Christian texts to describe evil spirits. Move forward to the 2nd and 3rd century. Church fathers Justin Martyr and Origen declare all pagan daemons evil. 4th and 5th century CE, you have Augustine cements daemon equals demon in church doctrine. And then, of course, by the Middle Ages, the word demon enters English with purely negative meaning.
Wow. I mean, it's pretty genius, to just kind of do that kind of magic and make the real meaning of what it is just kind of go away, like, completely.
Genius. I think you picked the exact right word there. So
I never even really heard of daemon or anything like that. I know of demon, and I know that it has a very negative connotation in all this, but never really knew anything about the daemon, and where it came from, dude. So this is just evidence.
Ain't too many pagans around to tell the story anymore.
That's true.
Yep. So why it all matters, this wasn't just a linguistic evolution, it was a spiritual inversion. The sacred voice within, the daemon, became a threat to religious control, because if people could hear divine truth within themselves, they wouldn't need a priest to tell them who they were or what God wanted. The inner voice that once led Socrates and uplifted Plato became, under the church, the whisper of Satan.
Of course, dude. Of course. You need some type of higher authority to help you out or to guide you or to, assist,
You're just
you
an
can't
unclean
do that
rag.
by yourself, dude.
You're just an unclean rag. What do you know? You're a sinner. You were born a sinner. You were born into sin.
Had no chance.
Think about that, dude. You're born into sin. Like, how, my God, what does that got to do to the psyche for people to actually accept that?
Yeah, well, all you got to do is just accept the Lord as our Savior, man. You'll be good. Don't even trip.
Oh, yeah, then you'll be saved. So anyhow, what if the inner voice you sometimes hear, that quiet pull, that strange knowing, isn't your imagination at all? What if it's a divine spirit, one that has been guiding your soul since before you were born? This episode that we're going to be getting into is not necessarily about religion. We kind of want to just go through the etymology there first, but now we're going to get into what it actually means, how people were using it, some quotes by people who were actually in touch with it. It's going to be an all-inclusive daemonic episode.
Oh, all right, dude. Take us there.
Okay, so so it's not about religion; it's about personal gnosis. This episode will be an initiation into rediscovering the divine intelligence that's been with you all along, your daemon. So, what is a daemon? Daemon. I'm just going to keep on going back and forth with it, to be honest with you.
So one sticks,
Because if I'm wrong, I'm only half wrong,
Exactly. Right. It's letting everybody know that we don't know what we're talking about.
We say it in the beginning, dude. We don't know what the fuck
we don't know shit.
Right. So the word daemon has deep roots in Greek cosmology. It didn't mean evil spirit. It referred to a divine intermediary, a spiritual intelligence that lives within or around each person. These beings weren't worshipped like Olympian gods, but were seen as personal guides connected to fate, genius, and divine will. To the Greeks, every soul had a daemon, a kind of celestial twin or guardian genius that knew what your soul's purpose was. It wasn't some outside entity trying to control you. It was you, just more whole, more awake, more divine. The daemon represented the soul's memory of heaven, whispering reminders in moments of clarity, inspiration, or danger. Modern mystics and psychologists have begun reclaiming this idea. The daemon is your future self speaking back through time. It's the compass pointing toward your destiny. But if you ignore it, you may feel lost, restless, or even cursed. Not because it punishes you, but because you've strayed away from your own divine alignment. So, and this might be why people are getting deja vu, if you really think about that.
Yeah, dude. And what I'm thinking about is that, we always know, even though we might not always be good or do good things, but I feel like we know the difference. We know what's good, regardless of what belief system you follow. It's just kind of ingrained. We know what's right from wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need a book telling me that thou shalt not kill. I kind of just know not to do it. And I know that, like, inherently it's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So moving forward. So first off, we're going to get Socrates and the daemon. So Socrates was the first in the Western canon to talk openly about his daemon. He described it as a voice, never loud, never commanding, that warned him when he was about to act against his soul's calling.
Okay. All right.
That's cool.
Of course, he's got to get in the mix, dude. He was connected. He knew something was going on.
Oh, dude, I mean, that's who Plato learned from, was Socrates.
Yep.
He was an understudy of Socrates there for a while, which is what inspired him down his path. So he didn't worship it, but he listened always. He claimed that the daemon had been with him since childhood. When he stood trial, he said it had not dissuaded him, and so he accepted his fate. This shows that even death was preferable to betraying one's daemon, a powerful idea that personal integrity is more sacred than survival. This inner voice wasn't madness or superstition, it was divine alignment. Socrates didn't see himself as a prophet or a mystic, yet he trusted this whisper above all else, which suggests that the daemon is not some supernatural fantasy, but a real experiential part of being a human when you live consciously.
It's consciousness, dude.
Literally,
that's where it's derived from.
And yeah, we call that a higher self nowadays. But back then, just think about it like right now, right? Let's say the Jesus was existing, or let's say Jesus just died 30, 40 years ago, just hypothetically speaking. And everybody, let's just say that everybody knew that, like, your higher self was a good thing. It's good to get into alignment. It's good to meditate. It's good to eat healthy. It's good to work out. It's good to do, like, very conscious things that's going to keep you kind of in this alignment, right? And let's just say that everybody called it your higher self. Just, a little roundabout type of term here. And then the church fathers come around. They're like, whoa, your higher self? What are you, fucking worshiping yourself now? Which is what a lot of them say.
Genius,
Yeah, which is exactly what a lot of people say. Oh, you're worshiping yourself. I don't know a single fucking person that worships themselves. I mean, yeah, they might be a little full of their own shit. But to say that you're worshiping yourself, that's egregious.
Yeah, I think if you're worshiping yourself, there's never a single moment that you're talking shit to yourself, And I think we all talk shit to ourselves, more so than we would talk shit to anybody.
Exactly. So it's kind of like just instead of looking at them like they got one over on the word daemon, just look at it like they got one over on the word higher self. And they turned the higher self into a negative entity that only communicates with the dark side. That's essentially what they did. Okay.
Yeah, man.
So, all right. So that was Socrates. Now we're going to get into Neoplatonism and the daemon. So, later philosophers like Plotinus and Proclus built on Plato's ideas and took the daemon to cosmic levels. In their view, every soul descends from the divine and forgets its source. The daemon's job is to guide it back. Like Ariadnes. I'm terrible at old people's names, but like his thread through the labyrinth of incarnation. They believe that the daemon exists in a realm between heaven and earth, an in-between state, essentially, acting as a translator between the soul and the divine. It doesn't control the human, but instead it nudges, aligns, and inspires. The daemon remembers who you are, even when you don't. So Proclus even taught that the daemon was a mirror of your perfected soul.
That's pretty cool, dude. And that's why so many of the spiritual feelings or experiences that we have had feel familiar, even though you've never been there, at least not in this body.
Oh, dude. Yeah, and I mean, he's literally talking about the intermediary between you and heaven. That's all the way Neoplatonic. Just looking at the one emanating onto all things, right? And so, and also think about it like this: the daemon could literally be Jesus, because
what do you mean?
Well, because Christ is the intermediary between you and God.
Oh, right.
Nobody comes to God except through me, right?
Right.
So it's essentially that Jesus is a daemon, if you really think about it like that.
Jeez. That's going to ruffle some feathers. Moving on.
That'll be the title of this episode. Is Jesus a demon?
Wait a minute. What the shit?
Oh, boy. So, so he taught that the daemon was a mirror of your perfected self. The more you purify your life, the more you harmonize with it. In this way, working with the daemon is a spiritual practice, one of remembrance, realignment, and awakening to your true soul's contract. To your true soul's contract. Yeah. Okay.
Holy shit. I don't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Danny Goler or I can't remember, but somebody said that they met it might not even necessarily have been their future self, but it was their wiser self, like in form, like in front of them. And so I wonder if that was their daemon.
Oh, Butler said it. Yeah, Butler said that.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, because he was like, yeah, it didn't look like a super old version, but I knew that it was like a more wise version of me.
Right. Right. His connection to that divine, the connection that allows him to understand his divinity,
I mean, he met his daemon.
That's crazy.
Essentially.
Love it.
So just before we go any farther, I want to get over to the chat here real quick. The White Boy Wizard said, the in betwixt.
Yes. It's my favorite. It's my favorite.
Kara said, good evening, mysterious weirdos, and happy new moon in Cancer. It's been a while.
Oh, all right.
Kara, what's up, dude? And Taylor said, oh my God, you got to watch His Dark Materials. Bro, ever since I brought this up, Nick has been like, I fucking told you years and years ago that you need to watch His Dark Materials. I'm like, I know, Nick, I'm sorry. I think I tried watching one episode, but you know what? I got to stick through it. I give up way too easy on shows that, whatever. But I mean, he keeps on saying it. And look, I mean, we all enjoy the OA, and we all enjoy like Rick and Morty and Black Mirror and all these kinds of things. That's like, our group knows what's up. All of the one here, if there's ever a show or like a movie or something like that y'all recommend that kind of goes in line with Meta Mysteries all encompassing, then we're definitely going to give it a little look-see at the bare minimum.
Oh yeah, dude. I've been having a hard time finding movies and finding things because I'm always looking for something deep, something I don't know, something more foundational and true or just real. You know what I mean? And whenever I go and look at the movies, I'm like, what is this shit, dude? I don't want to waste 2 hours watching this, And don't get me wrong, I will. I will watch something here and there, but lately I've been really looking for something like, I don't know, just deep.
Yeah, well, and so Taylor said, I'm over here like, oh my God, Socrates makes so much sense when thinking about the daemon in the show. And then said that the Golden Compass is a movie version of the show. Kids movie, I love it. Wow.
Okay.
Haven't heard of that one yet, but all right. Well, I mean, that's our homework. We got to watch His Dark Materials, bro.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Good stuff. So yeah, we had Neoplatonism. We had Socrates diving into it. Now we're going to get to the Gnostic and Hermetic principles and parallels, rather. So the Gnostics had a similar view, though with a more urgent tone. In their cosmology, we are divine sparks trapped in a material prison. The daemon is a fragment of divine memory, the part of you that never forgot the light. It's not just guidance, it's rescue. In Hermeticism, the nous, which is more of a Neoplatonic idea and Platonic idea, but Hermeticism and Platonism kind of go hand in hand with a lot of things. So in Hermeticism, the nous, or the divine intellect, and the logos, which is the divine word, serve a similar purpose as bridges between the mortal and the eternal. The daemon becomes the inner Christ, the Thoth, or the higher Mercury. Yeah, that's good stuff right there. Hermes, remember? Hermes Trismegistus was, standing for Mercury, which was the messenger between you and the one. So the daemon literally is your connection to the one, to the all, to God, to the universe, whatever, right?
Right.
Both traditions emphasize gnosis, which is inner knowing. You don't need external prophets when you're connected to your daemon. You have direct access to the divine stream. This made these traditions threatening to religious institutions, which is likely why the daemon was literally demonized.
So I wonder what the threat is, though. Is it just a power thing, like usual? Just they don't want us to have that kind of power because only they can have that power, that authority.
Yeah, it's kind of like... this is going to sound bad, but it's kind of like, what is it called? The Beauty and the Beast syndrome. I can never remember that term.
Oh, fuck. I can't remember.
Somebody's going to remember it. Anyway, It's essentially like that. The
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome. Yes, that's it. But it's essentially like if the husband will belittle the wife so much, either, physical, emotional, sexual, whatever, so much, and the wife literally starts believing that she's lower than dirt, and because look, if you full on buy into why your husband is disciplining you in certain kinds of ways, then surely your husband wouldn't just be doing this for no reason. Like, you need it. You know what I mean? And so that's the Stockholm syndrome behind it. And I think that what religious, and not even just Christianity, but a lot of religions are trying to teach is basically Stockholm syndrome. Like literally, it says in the Bible that God sees you as unclean rags. Okay, you're born a sinner, you're unclean rags, and you're going to go straight to hell unless you accept Jesus as your savior. If that's not Stockholm syndrome, I don't know what is.
Right.
Because if you know that you have that inner spark inside of you, that daemon, that higher self, that whatever that is, that gnosis, then you're going to be like, no, get out of here with that. But the amount of Stockholm syndrome and the amount of just hammering is, unfortunately, that's just, my belief, I believe that that's what happened. I'm not going to say that that's what is happened. I don't know what I don't know, but my daemon says that that's correct.
Right. Makes sense, dude.
Yeah. So, where were we? All right. So, now we're going to get to Carl Jung and what he talked about with the daemon. So, Jungian psychology and the daemon. Carl Jung wasn't afraid to borrow from the old world. He saw the daemon as a symbol of the self, the totality of the conscious and unconscious mind. Carl Jung called it the inner guide that surfaces during shadow work, dreams, and spiritual crises. The daemon, in Jungian terms, appears as synchronicities, symbolic dreams, or even archetypes in tarot or in myth. He encouraged people to dialogue with it, like in active imagination, where you converse with parts of your psyche. The daemon might show up as a wise old man, a trickster, or even your future self. To Jung, ignoring your daemon led to a life of neurosis and self-sabotage. Listening to it, on the other hand, was the path of individuation, the mystical union of ego and the soul. In this way, psychology becomes modern-day alchemy, and the daemon is your philosopher's stone.
Okay, that inner genius, man. All right.
Yeah, dude. So you see how it's all in one right now, right?
Yeah, yeah, dude. And the way I've been thinking lately, as far as like consciousness and the way our brain works, like I understand that our brain is very complex and it's just an amazing machine. But I'm trying to understand that connection when it comes to our mind and the spirit. You know, Carl Jung sounds like he's likes to talk about our own mind and the brain and the subconscious and everything else, but maybe that's where the connection is, I guess. You know, that's what I've been trying to figure out for myself, really.
Well, and what
You
they're
know, is it
saying,
just mind or is it something that we just don't fully understand that connects our mind to the divine?
no, it's not even mind. Mind is like lesser. So
Mm.
this would be so your higher self is not your mind. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
so
something in the conscious and the subconscious, you know?
there you go. So yeah, the conscious mind is the mind that everybody knows and everybody talks about. Whenever you say the mind, you're talking about the conscious mind, right?
Right.
The subconscious mind is, even Dolores Cannon, she used to say, "Look, she started saying that these messages were coming through your subconscious mind, but she goes, that's not exactly the term that I'm looking for. She just didn't know what else to call it, and then
Okay.
she started talking about the higher self." So, it converted from subconscious to the higher self. Your
Right.
subconscious is more of kind of like your programming,
Mm.
if you really think about it like that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, because I understood it like your sub. At least this is how I understood it. Your subconscious is the thing that notices everything, notices things that your conscious mind doesn't notice, and so that's why symbols and when you go into a past life regression, you'll get a certain experience depending on what your subconscious has seen and understands. You know what I mean? The part of your mind that just gives you the messages, and so it's like I'm like stuck in the middle of, is it just your mind or is it something more,
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like, and this is kind of like the image I'm getting in my mind is kind of like a if you put it in like Neoplatonic terms. So you have the one, then the nous, then the world soul, and then the physical world. And that's the one that's emanating on everything, and every single world or every single emanation is kind of like farther away from God but still connected, right? Or farther
Right,
away from
right.
the one but still connected. I almost
Right.
look at it like this: like if we're talking about strictly you and your mind and your subconscious and your conscious mind, and you want to also include the daemon. Let's just say the daemon is your spirit. I mean, essentially, that's what it would be called. If you're trying to group it into like Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, it would be the Spirit, right? And so, if you look at it, so essentially, the physical world would be your physical body. Let's just say that. And the world soul would be your conscious mind. The nous would be your
Subconscious mind.
subconscious, I guess, and maybe your daemon would be so closely related to the one, or so closely. I don't know. Maybe I said that wrong, but either way, it all seems that like you have so many different modalities of what you call yourself. You have, your mind, your subconscious, your conscious mind, your,
Yeah.
your spirit, so to say, and your physical body. So essentially, look at yourself like you have literally 4 yous, right? And some people, like, every so often we like to mess up from time to time and eat a cheeseburger or have, sex when we shouldn't be with this person or that person or whatever, and that's more of like the physical, like that's you succumbing to your animalistic mind. In a sense. And then, whenever you're sitting in meditation, maybe that is right when, because that's what it was saying, that, the daemon doesn't scream at you. It doesn't even say anything loudly to you. It's more of the whisper. And if you think of that whisper, that divine consciousness of the daemon, then that would probably only happen like within meditation, during the dreaming, because that's the only time where you shut the fuck up for a little
Right.
bit,
Yeah, yeah. And I guess when it comes to your mind, I guess we can talk about awareness, because I've had time where I feel like I'm not seeing synchronicities as often, maybe here and there, but definitely not as much as I have experienced in the past. And so when it comes to our mind, that's where the disconnect is. It's because it's just my level of awareness to it, You know what I mean? But the inner genius or the, the daemon is always there, trying to show me things, but I'm just not paying attention. And so that's the part that gets in the way, I guess.
Well, and that's what was it, Socrates, that was basically just like, look, I'm not going to go against my daemon. Like, my daemon didn't do anything wrong.
Right,
Like, and so
right.
I'm not like I'll die before I go against that. And that's
Right.
just your soul's connection. Jesus dying on the cross, that's essentially what that is that he was like, my daemon, or God, if you want to put it that way. And you could probably even, interchangeably say God in a sense. It's your connection. It's your cell phone to God or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know how it said that the daemon was kind of neutral. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's times where, and I'm sure everyone has experienced this, where you kind of talk down to yourself and you're kind of saying to yourself like, "Oh, you're a piece of shit," because you're not doing as much as you should, or maybe you did eat that cheeseburger and you're just kind of like talking shit to yourself. That can't be your daemon, right?
No, not at all. I don't think so anyway, not according to this. And
Just
that
out
was
of
only
curiosity.
that was only one person's view, calling it neutral,
As far as
by
it
the
being
way.
neutral? Okay.
That was, let's see, in Roman culture, under figures like Cicero and Seneca. So in Latin, it says it still carried mostly positive or neutral connotations. So okay, there's that.
All right.
So anyway, let's get back to it over here. So now we're going to get into the daemon equaling the higher self. So this is the golden thread weaving through it all. Your daemon is not something else. It is you, stripped of illusion. It's the version of you that already remembers the mission, already forgives the past, and already loves the future. It's your soul's compass. When you're aligned, it feels like flow, like deja vu, like I was meant to be here. When you ignore it, it feels like resistance, chaos, and repeating loops of failure. You'll hear it in your gut, your dreams, or in strange synchronicities that seem to tug at your awareness. The daemon may also be your genius, as the Romans called it, the spark of brilliance in art, invention, or epiphany. When you create something that feels like it came from a deeper place, that's your daemon showing up. You're not being possessed, you're being revealed.
Wow. So even those people that don't like to take credit for their music that they wrote, or, a script that they wrote, it's like, oh, it just came to me, that wasn't me. Well, maybe it was, just on a deeper level that you're not aware of.
And look, if you don't want to align yourself with this and you want to look at your higher self, and this is what a lot of people do, like you think about like Electro Nick, like his guides are the Pleiadians. Like there's no way that could be him. And maybe it is. Maybe he just forgot that was him or something along those lines. But, and some people will say, well, I'm talking to, my dead grandmother, or, this was Sri Yukteswar, right? Like from Autobiography of a Yogi. And so, and maybe you want to just paint it as a different kind of figure. Or who was it? The round table guy that said that we need to get all those characters in our mind.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, dude. It's been so
can't think
long.
of
We
what
need to
his
get
name
him
was.
back, man. It's just, fuck.
Such a great
I
guy.
feel really bad. I feel really bad right now. I always can remember that guy's name.
Starts with an N, I think.
It'll come. Nigel Perryman.
Nigel.
That's all I needed, dude. That's all I needed.
There you go. But yeah, that's basically what he was saying is like, you get the round table of the people in your mind you want to have conversations with, the essentially versions of your higher self from different perspectives. And I mean, maybe at that point you have 5 daemons then.
Right. I mean, because they would all be connected anyways, probably, if we're all one on that level.
Right. So yeah, that's the daemon as the higher self. Now we're going to go to daemon versus demon, the great inversion. So how did something so sacred become so feared? It all changed with the Christianization of the Roman Empire. Pagan spiritual concepts like daemons were seen as competitors to the church's control over the soul, so they were demonized, literally. Augustine and others argued that all quote-unquote pagan spirits were demons in disguise, tricksters luring people away from Christ. The daemon became a threat, even though it was originally a guide. This inversion wasn't accidental. It ensured that people would stop trusting their inner compass and instead rely on church authority. Over time, Daemon became demon, and all positive spiritual nuance was erased. This fear is still deeply embedded in Western culture. Many people think any inner voice is a temptation, when in fact, it might just be their salvation.
Something you need to hear, man. Shit.
It's your guide. And look,
I'm telling you, man, you start to, if you start to really dwell on, oh, maybe I have a demon, and you really start to dwell on that, you will manifest that. I think you can cause a lot of anxiety and stress, and then before you know it, man, you're causing dis-ease and you're sick, and you know what I mean? And then you're possessed, basically, at that point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, our thoughts can literally take on a mind of their own, and you let that snowball effect happen. By the end of the day, you got a fucking, a super huge boulder that is just on your back. And
but the good news is you can exercise that demon yourself, and get rid of it.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So, how to work with your daemon? We're going to get right into that now.
Okay.
So to work with your daemon, you must first make space for it. This means silence, reflection, shadow work. The demon doesn't scream, it whispers. And if you're always distracted or numbing it out, you'll never hear it. Start by asking this: what part of me feels ancient? What part of me already knows the answer? This is not about rational thinking. It's about resonance. Practices like dream journaling, active imagination, tarot or oracle work, deep meditation, or creative flow states like in music, art, writing, whatever your artistic thing is, to where you can get in that flow state. These are all open portals for your daemon to emerge. Treat it like a sacred ally. Give it a name if one arises. Let it show you where you've betrayed yourself, not to punish, but to liberate. When the daemon is integrated, you no longer need to ask anyone else who you are. You know, you remember, and you return.
Dude. When you're in that creative flow, dude, and you're doing that thing that you're, call it your gift, right? If it's easy for you to do for no reason at all. Of course, maybe you practiced at it or what have you, but when you're in the zone, dude, and all of your awareness is on that one thing, man, it's so nice. It's a peaceful place, man. It's your happy place.
Oh, dude, when you fully commit to something and, nothing in the world, like literally nothing else in the world is happening outside of the bubble of whatever you got going on right there with you is going on.
Call it the treehouse.
Oh, dude, like you're narrowing in. You know what I mean? And that's the flow state, because
that's the flame of the candle, dude. That
exactly.
we stare into.
Yeah, and so that's what, people will say is that, only the present moment matters. There's no such thing as the past. There's no such thing as the future. And if you can finally convince yourself of that, that's essentially what's going on in the flow state. You're not worried about what's going on in the past. You're not worried about what's going on in the future. You're not even worried about what's going on.
You're not worried about time in general, dude.
You're not worried about what's going on in the other room. You know what I mean? Like, you're so into that flow state. And that's what they're saying, that's where, that flow state is the daemon, essentially.
That's where it's time to start having that conversation, when you get to that quiet place. I love it, dude.
Yes. So daemons have popped up in pop culture as as many people have told us here. In his dark materials, people's souls live outside them in the form of talking animal daemons. In The Exorcist, the fear of possession is the shadow inversion of that same archetype, suggesting how closely linked guidance and fear truly are. Movies like Donnie Darko, Fight Club, shout out, one of the best movies of all time, and even the OA gets a shout out in this one.
Oh, really?
Show characters confronting forces that seem like they're other, but are really inner aspects, daemons in disguise. These stories show us what happens when we suppress or engage that inner guide. Even superheroes often fit this mold. Spider-Man's Spidey sense, Luke Skywalker's Jedi intuition. These are all echoes of the daemon idea, buried under layers of fiction. Our modern myths still remember, even when we forget.
That's other creatives tapping into that divine force, if you will, and just kind of putting it into their art, because it's there, dude.
Yeah, well, they
The
pulled,
Force.
they got
you
into
know?
that flow state, you know?
That's right. That's right.
So now we're going to get into Alan Watts, of course, had to get brought up in
I
this
love him.
conversation.
Yeah, dude.
His quote is, "You don't come into this world, you come out of it, like a wave from the ocean. You're not a stranger here." So yeah, we're
Good one.
gonna use this idea, essentially kind of building off of this, to show everybody that we are not separate from divinity, and that the daemon is an echo of our true origin. So, what is a daemon? According to Carl Jung, this is his one of his quotes. "In each of us there is another whom that we do not know. He speaks to us in dreams and tells us how differently he sees us from the way that we see ourselves."
That's cool.
Of course, Jung was on it, dude.
So deep. Of course.
Another quote from Alan Watts: "To go out of your mind once a day is tremendously important, because going out of your mind, you come to your senses, or because by going out of mind, you come to your senses."
I love it. Just make sure to come back too. You know, it's balance.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to eat, you know.
Love it.
So now we're going to get to Socrates and Plato, a couple of their quotes here. So Socrates said, "A divine or spiritual voice, which began when I was a child. It always forbids me to do something that I am going to do, but never commands me to do anything."
Just a little warning shot. You know, little office pop.
Yeah. Plato, another quote from him: "Everything daemonic is between divine and mortal." Yeah, it's that
Rainbow
connection.
Bridge, dude.
Connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the fucking Rainbow Bridge all day.
That's it.
So this, and it even says, "This clearly defines the daemon as a bridge or intermediary, reinforcing the whole concept of the show, really." So now we're going to get to Neoplatonism. So you got, and we've talked about a couple of these names in Neoplatonism, but the third one we haven't really brought up too much. So you have Plato, Plotinus, and then Proclus, which is a new name to me. But a couple of quotes from Plotinus, who was essentially like the father of Neoplatonism. So he says, "We are always what we are, but we do not always know it. To be a man is to be forgetful." Wow.
Damn.
So to be human, essentially, is to be forgetful.
Holy shit.
Another quote of Plotinus, he goes, "Withdraw into yourself and look. And if you do not find yourself beautiful yet, act as does the creator of a statue that is to be made beautiful. He cuts away here, he smooths there, until a godlike splendor is revealed."
That's cool.
That is pretty cool. So it says this is practically a manual for daemon work, inner refinement to match divine essence. And then, of course, you got a quote by Proclus. His quote is, "Each of us has within us the God-given power of spiritual ascent. The daemon is the link between our soul and its divine source." That somehow got turned to demon.
Yep. Of course, dude. Of course.
Oh, man. That's all right. We're here to right some of the wrongs. That's what we're here for.
We're trying, man. We're trying to figure it out.
So now we're going to get into Gnostic and Hermetic parallels. So in the Hermetic text called Corpus Hermeticum the first edition, I think, that says within it, "Within man is the nous, the divine reason, which can lead the soul back to the divine world if purified."
That's the noose that we're constantly feeling the need to contemplate.
Oh, shit. We got a
We know
quote
there's
from...
something to figure out, dude.
yeah. So we got a quote from Dolores Cannon in here.
Oh, all right.
This is from her book called Between Death and Life. Highly suggest everybody read this book, because it's not about between life and death. It's between death and life. So it's like what happens once you die, and what's the in-between window of once you're dead before you reincarnate or go on to the next thing, right?
Right.
So cool. But her quote from that book is, "You are not just a body with a soul. You are a soul experiencing through a body. The higher self is the true self, and it always knows what you need to learn."
Sometimes it'd be nice if it would just take over a little more often. It's so much hard work to access that sometimes.
Well, and that just goes back to, I mean, how often are we meditating? Because we fucking try and hammer this one home as often as we can. And even we don't meditate as often as we should.
Yep.
But the more you meditate and the more you just quiet the mind and get back to that level of awareness that knows and is guiding you and is literally the spark of the whole, right? The more we quiet that down, I mean, maybe the more frequent the synchronicities happen and more frequent in alignment that you feel. So yeah, but anyway, her quote here, so her version of the daemon is the higher self that exists outside of time and space.
Okay.
So it's on one right there.
I dig it.
Nextly, we're going to go to a couple of quotes here by Carl Jung. So in Jungian psychology and the daemon, a quote by Carl Jung is, "The self is a circle whose center is the ego. The greater the circle of awareness, the closer one moves toward the self." Okay, so all right, so your divine self essentially is what he's talking about.
Yeah, your true self, not the self that's masked with the ego and all the other bullshit.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's see. We got here another one from Carl Jung. The daemon stands between the ego and the self. If the ego refuses to hear it, the daemon becomes a devil. If the ego cooperates, the daemon becomes a guiding spirit.
That makes sense, dude. That makes sense, because it does feel, when you don't feel quite as connected to that divine source, or you know what I mean. You ultimately you're connected, but then you lose sight of that. You get distracted, and then you start to see more obstacles, things that are making your life harder. And so ultimately it's just a dark or a bad entity, in that sense, if you look at it that way, I guess.
Oh, dude. Wow. I mean, literally what he's saying here is that essentially anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, even suicide itself are all the result of you not having more of a connection to your own inner awareness, your own higher self, your own daemon, and back in those terms, right? And you can see it, dude. Like, how many people are just, they're stuck in jobs they don't like, they're stuck in relationships they don't like, they don't have good relationships with their kids or their friends or anything. They're just completely lost, right? You think about like midlife crises and whatnot. It's like all of that is really transpiring because it's been so long that like you haven't connected with your own inner divinity that ultimately connects you to the whole of everything.
Right.
That, you've lost, that inner spark, that light has gotten so dim that it's barely even there anymore.
And those are the sort of things that I would be okay with labeling. If you must label it, I would be okay with it being a demon. Those negative thoughts, the times you're talking shit to yourself and you're no good, like that's a demon, Yeah,
exactly. And so how funny is that though? That like when you don't listen to your daemon, that's whenever a demon appears.
Right.
I mean, essentially, not literally, but essentially that's kind of what's going on. Like your life is dark and gloomy. You're having thoughts that you don't want to have. You're talking shit about yourself at literally every moment of the day, burying yourself even deeper than you already are with, in the previous moment. Like that's hell. That's where demons live.
And then you get addicted to that. You know what I mean? I forget who it was that was speaking on this, but they were saying that you get addicted to those negative emotions. Once you get that ball rolling, it's almost like it just creates this, I don't know, just this habit or this addiction to feeling those negative emotions and putting yourself through that cycle, and then that's why it's so hard to get rid of that. And so then some might say you need an exorcism, probably,
Well, you find comfort in it because it's so
it's the known now.
It's regular. Like that's like comforting to you. The shit talking on yourself and belittling yourself and everything like that. Like, and you think about that. Like, if you're in alignment and you're doing what you love doing, and you love the people that you're around, and every day you wake up, it's like, oh my God, I get to do today again. How awesome is that?
Right.
You're not going to be in that headspace. You know, you're not going to be like belittling yourself and talking shit about yourself and having anxiety and having depression and feeling completely disconnected from not only everybody around you, but from the source of which you came. You know?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man. Yeah, dude.
So one more quote here from Carl Jung. He goes, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are," which directly reflects Daemon integration and individuation.
Yeah, and it's probably easier when you get into that flow. You know, everything just starts working out good.
Exactly. So here we go. The Daemon equaling the higher self through the words of Alan Watts and Dolores Cannon. So Alan Watts, and I'm bringing up all these quotes to just show you that, like, look, it wasn't just a pagan thing, and it didn't necessarily die in, you know, by the creation of Christianity and stuff. The idea of it has still carried on. People just renamed it. Essentially.
Right. And it was still very much understood by the deepest of all thinkers.
Right.
Know?
I mean, Carl Jung called it the self. Dolores Cannon called it the higher self. Alan Watts, you know, he just said, look, you were never separate from anything, so why are you acting like you are?
Right. Exactly, dude.
So Alan Watts, a quote right here from his book titled The Book. He goes, "You are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself." Wow. Maybe that's the Daemon's view, you know?
Yep.
Dolores Cannon said, "The higher self is always there, whispering, guiding, but it will never interfere. It waits for permission."
Oh, all right.
Bingo.
You get to allow it.
Fucking bingo right there. That's it. So Daemon versus Demon, I feel like, did I already read this? No. Okay. Damn, we got a bunch of quotes from Carl Jung and Alan Watts for some reason. Yeah. I mean, I'm not complaining. So another quote from Carl Jung. He goes, "The reason for evil in the world is that people are not able to tell their stories." From his book titled Memories, Dreams, and Reflections. And so essentially you can kind of use this quote to imply that the daemon was demonized because its truth was suppressed. When we lose our mythic memory, we turn guides into monsters.
Damn. It's
a
good way to spread some fear, dude.
Yeah, it is.
You start hearing a voice telling you some stuff. You're like, oh, what is that?
I always found it very strange that anytime you talk to a religious person, you go into some kind of religious or spiritual type of experience, it's always a demon. You know, it's never an angel. It's never God. It's never Jesus.
Unknown,
it's always, well, it has to be because you didn't ask Jesus or you didn't ask literally God. And why would you ask God? You're not even a Christian. You know what I mean? Like, kind of deal. So, that's sad. But anyway, Alan Watts, a quote here, he goes, "The devils are in the deep unconscious, not because they're evil, but because they're forgotten."
Okay.
Essentially talking, the shadow work. Yeah.
That's it.
So working with your demon, or daemon rather, sorry. Dolores Cannon said, "Ask. That's all it takes. Just ask and be open. The higher self can only guide if you listen."
This I firmly believe, dude. Wherever this is coming from, obviously we don't know, but I did have a really crazy experience one time where I actually, and I think we had just interviewed Cassandra, and she was saying about asking for your guides, you know, and actually opening up that communication. And as soon as I did, within, I don't know, 10 seconds, dude, that was when I had that weird bow, like it was a flash that I saw while my eyes were closed. And so, I mean, as soon as you open that up, and a lot of people, and even a lot of religious people would tell you, you know, you just got to open yourself up to it, you know? And so it's the same supernatural force that everyone's talking about. It's just got different labels and different understandings. And, you know, it's all the same thing. We're all part of it.
And that's what it was saying earlier, that it essentially will feel like an epiphany moment, you know, once you become open to it.
Yeah, dude, it was it scared the shit out of me, dude, at first. It was just like, pow, like you know when you turn on the light and the light bulb burns out and it's like, poof, like that, but it was right here in my eye, you know? And I remember calling you the next day and I was like, dude, the craziest thing happened, you know? And I mean, I know that wasn't just my mind playing tricks on me, because I mean, I wasn't asleep or anything. I was fully consciously aware, and this thing just happened. Like I was having an experience, and I had another experience just recently, dude, where it looked like light was coming out of my chest, and I could see it real briefly, dude. And I was like, "Whoa!" Like a bright light.
Oh yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, who knows what that is, but
It's
I think I
something.
know.
It's
I think I
definitely
know.
yeah. Oh, by the way, remind me once we're kind of through reading all this, to talk about my experience at Bro Grove,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
my psychedelic experience, because
Heck
it's
yeah, dude.
fucking wild, dude.
Heck yeah.
But anyway, all right. So yeah. Okay, here's another quote by Carl Jung. He goes, "If you do not speak to your daemon, it will speak to you as fate." Oh, that's a good
That's
one.
interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Essentially, like, people are like, oh, well, that's as fate'll have it. Like that's just my
How the
luck,
cookie
or
crumbles.
that's
you
my
know?
destiny. I'm
Right.
destined to be a C, like a C plus kind of human, or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, because you're not listening to, the inner higher self, the daemon, right?
And that's the one thing I wanted to hit on real quick. I was going to say it earlier, but as far as when you're in that cycle of talking shit to yourself, and the reason another reason why I think it's kind of you get kind of addicted to it and you just continue to do that is because you're basically just lowering your own bar, like as low as it can go. And I mean, now everything is just, it's easy because failure is okay. And not doing well is okay because, of course, this is who I am. I suck. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So you flip it on its head, and now your bar goes up. Now you have to rise to that occasion.
Right. And we've all been there to where we just kind of find solace in beating up ourselves so nobody else can say anything. Like Eminem did it great in 8 Mile, right? It's like, yes,
That's
I
how I
am
grew
trailer
up, dude.
trash, and yes, my mom did, steal my car or whatever the fuck,
Right.
that's, and there's some peace in that, which even if you think about it, like what a wild creation or what a wild existence that you can even find peace in destruction of your mind.
Of yourself. Yeah, dude. Yep.
Yeah, pretty wild. So yeah, just going back to this Jungian quote, if you do not speak to your daemon, it will speak to you as fate. It says, this is gold, and it perfectly describes the inner voice becoming outer chaos when ignored.
Yep.
One quote right here by Proclus, he goes, when the soul lives in harmony with its daemon, it fulfills its divine image on earth.
Damn.
That's solid. I like it. Here we go. One by Alan Watts again. Myth is a mirror. We recognize the images because they all. Let me just reread that. We recognize the images because they are already within us. So, yeah, pretty freaking sweet. Oh, here we go. Now we're going to get to it. So I figured, since it was kind of literally demonized within Christianity, why don't we hear a couple of quotes from Jesus, possibly referring to
I was going to
his
ask you
daemon?
about that, but I didn't know if you had anything loaded up for that. All right,
Jesus on the inner guide, the daemon as Christ consciousness.
Of course. Yep.
Okay, so in Luke chapter 17, verses 20 through 21, it says, the kingdom of God cometh not with observation, neither shall they say, look here or look there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. That's a Jesus quote.
I love it.
So the interpretation of it is that this is one of Jesus's clearest affirmations that divine truth is not external, it is internal. The kingdom within is essentially like what to the daemon, your divine core guiding you back to God.
Makes sense, dude. As far as, you
Checks out.
can't really look at any of this with a logical mind. And that's one thing that I hear a lot is, well, you can't think about it, because I'll ask questions to people that are religious and the same answer that I get is like, you can't think about it logically, and so it makes sense that everybody kind of has their own way of doing things and understanding things through their experiences and what have you. You know what I mean? If you try to explain any of that logically, you're never going to fully understand.
And there's logical ways of looking at this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I mean, that's a whole other kind of mind that you got to get into to like blindly follow and blindly believe. Don't ask any questions. Just trust the plan kind of thing. I've never been one of those kind of people that just goes along to get along. Like, you know, we've always been kind of the outcast that like asks questions and, and that's, yeah, you know, that's obviously like why even a lot of the one are here, because we ask questions. We're intuitive. We're in touch with whatever that is within us, that whenever we hear something to just follow blindly, we're like, why? Like, let me understand why. Like, I need to understand why this works or why you're saying to do this kind of thing.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, you're going to ask those questions and try to wonder when someone comes up to you and is like, hey, you know, just to let you know, you're going to go to hell. You know, it's like, all right, well, let me figure out why you think this and understand it for myself.
Exactly. So then we got another one from John chapter 14, verse 26. This is another Jesus quote that says, "But the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, from the Father will send in my name. He shall teach you all things and bring all things to your remembrance."
Your remembrance. You already know. You just got to recognize, recognize.
Christ consciousness, right here. What you want to call it, Christ consciousness, your higher self, your daemon, whatever. Everybody's got a name
where
for
you
it.
are.
Exactly. So the interpretation is that the Holy Spirit here acts as an inner teacher, a function that is indistinguishable from that of the daemon or higher self. It's not outside help. It reminds you of truth that you already carry.
And this is why when we, you know, you have an experience and you slightly remove the veil, all of a sudden things that you never thought you knew just make so much sense. You know?
Yes.
It's just a knowing.
And like, dude, it's like that inner knowing. It is so obvious that it's like real. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't even question it. It's like, I don't know. It's like a second language almost that you're almost unfamiliar with, that you automatically just remember whenever you're in that flow.
It's a happy place, dude.
It is. The next one is from the Gospel of Thomas. This is more of the Gnostic variety, but I figured, hey, we'll include the Gnostic and the not Gnostic text from, you know, the regular Bible and the Gnostic writings. So from the Gospel of Thomas, and this is saying 70, that's what they're called. He goes, or Jesus says, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you."
Oh shit, dude! There's your savior and your devil right there.
Exactly. So the interpretation from this one, it says this is one of the most direct Gnostic parallels to Jung's Daemon quote. "If you do not speak to your daemon, it will speak to you as fate." The idea that the inner force is either liberating or destructive, depending on how you relate to it, at the heart of Daemon work. Fucking awesome. I love it. Next one is from John chapter 5, verse 19. This is a quote. Another one. These are all from Jesus, by the way. So even though, like, for anybody that's unfamiliar with the Bible, like, as I stated earlier, the four main gospels in the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, yeah, it's like it's their chapters, but they're all Jesus sayings, essentially.
Okay.
These are like Jesus's life was essentially written in these four books.
Okay.
According to the Bible. So John chapter 5, verse 19, Jesus says, "The Son can do nothing of himself, but what he seeth that the Father do. For what things soever he does, these also do the Son likewise." That's written in very old English.
It's very hard for me to understand. I'm going to have to read that a couple times.
So the interpretation is essentially saying this. Jesus acknowledges that he follows the quote-unquote Father. What the Father is kind of like the daemon or the higher self, right?
Yep.
He acknowledges that he follows the Father, but Gnostic readings see the Father as the inner divine source rather than an external sky god.
Right.
It's the higher self, the Christ within, a term mirrored by what the Greeks would call the daemon.
I love it. I love it, dude.
That's
why all this shit works, man.
It do. The next one is from the Gospel of Thomas, saying 3. where Jesus says, "The kingdom is inside of you and it is outside of you. When you come to know yourself, then you will be known and you will realize that it is you who are the sons of the living Father." The interpretation is that the daemon isn't just a voice, it's a gateway to divine sonship. Jesus teaches that when you awaken to your true self, the divine reveals itself as being one with you. That is the essence of Christ consciousness and mirrors the daemon as a divine intermediary that is you in your highest state.
Wow. And it's very powerful. It can create a heaven on earth or a hell on earth. You know?
Oh, yeah. Then we go to John chapter 10, verse 34. Jesus says that it is not written in your law, I said, you are gods. Yep. So the interpretation is that Jesus is quoting Psalm chapter 82, verse 6, but recontextualizing it to emphasize the divinity within, the very same concept that the daemon embodies. You are not merely a servant of God, but a vessel of God, and when in alignment with your divine self, you reflect that truth.
It's inside all of us already, man.
Gospel of Philip from the Gnostic text says, those who say they will die first and then rise are mistaken. If they do not receive the resurrection while they live, when they die, they will receive nothing.
Oh, that's not what I thought was understood.
The interpretation is, this supports the idea that awakening to your daemon, your divine self, must happen in life through conscious inner work. You don't need to wait to be saved. You remember who you are.
Dude, and this is the thing that I've been saying a lot lately is that, you know, it's a way of life isn't necessarily for preparation of death. You know what I mean? It's to have a good way to live while you're here now, you know?
Yeah, I'll be real with you, dude. The reason why I got into a lot of this like spiritual stuff as deep as I personally have is because I've been trying to figure out what is the right way to live. You know, like, because sometimes you feel like you're trapped or you're strapped down and you don't really have a say so, and you got to go along to get along, and you got to do this, and you have to fulfill obligations and all this other kind of stuff. And I was like, sure, I'll do that. Just let me spiritually find out the truth, and, you know, and that will kind of be my guide as to what my next step in life will be. I mean, if I'm supposed to just do everything out of obligation, then I don't have any problem doing that. But if that's not the answer, and I don't need to feel obligated, that, you know, like, because you feel so out of alignment whenever literally everything in your life is an obligation, right?
Right.
And, you know, now you're doing things that you don't want to be doing, but you know you have to, and, you know, whether you're working a job or whatever, maybe you're with somebody you don't want to be with, whatever the case may be. And so that's kind of like really why I went into this whole spiritual, you know, got into all this spiritual stuff in the first place, because I was like, dude, what is the right way to live? Because I don't believe that anybody has a fucking speck of knowledge at all about what's the right way to live. So I'm not just going to go and do what everybody else is doing. Let me try and figure it out, you know?
Yeah. No, that's perfect, dude. I think that's what a lot of us here, you know, experience all the time. Like, what is the lens that I want to look through? That's the thing I've been really trying to narrow down. Surely I know not to do certain things, and I know what things are good, but how do I really want to visualize what my existence is, you know? And I think I don't think anybody has a wrong answer, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's your own kind of inner truth, and your daemon will reveal it.
That's it, dude. That's it.
So we read the Gospel of Philip. Oh, now we're going to get to one of my favorite Bible quotes, probably my favorite actual Bible quote. I kind of stated it earlier. I was right, though. Matthew chapter 6, verse 22. Yep.
Good shit.
It's probably because I did just read it while I was going over this note, so I'm not going to suck my own self off that much. But so Matthew 6:22, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. The interpretation is, esoterically, the single eye has been interpreted as the pineal gland or inner vision, the eye through which the daemon might be perceived. Full of light equals aligned with your divine guide.
Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of the mystical experiences happen, dude. You know, when you're in meditation or you're just contemplating, that's when things happen, not when you're just in the physical world. I mean, sure, you might have some synchronicities, and that's just, I think that's pointing towards your level of awareness. But yeah, when you're meditating and you experience something, it feels very real. You know, it doesn't feel like something you made up just to trick yourself.
Well, you're acting like in union, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the idea behind, like, it's kind of like like a union when you get married, for example, right? Like you're now thinking as one unit rather than two separate individuals. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're talking about here when we're talking about the
Yep.
union of you and, your third eye, your pineal gland, your daemon, your Christ, or
Staying in
whatever it is.
alignment with that.
It's a
Yeah.
fucking union. You guys are coexisting. You're working together,
Mhm.
and there's,
Co-creating, dude.
yeah, you're co-creating. And if you look at your life as a co-creation rather than just you're in charge of everything and you don't have anybody to talk to or anybody to ask or anybody to work with or anything like that, then of course you're going to feel like, oh my God, I got to do all this. I got to do all that. That's where anxiety and depression come along. But, you got to get back to co-creating.
That's it, dude. That's it.
So, my question to the one out here is, was Jesus actually talking about the daemon? Because I think that he was.
I think so.
When he was
I
talking about the
mean,
Father.
dude, he was on some shit, dude. You know, he knew some shit.
Oh, he definitely did. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, what I got so far. I mean, I got a couple more things here, but then we're going to get to the chat over here, and then we'll get to the tarot, and then the meditation, and all the fun
Can't
stuff.
forget about your experience.
Oh, that's
that
right.
you,
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that here in a
Right.
minute. Just remind me again.
We're on the edges of our seat.
So now you know about the daemon. The voice that nudged you when no one else was looking. The whisper in the stillness. The invisible hand that pulled you back from the edge was never a ghost. It was never madness. It was you in the most divine form. The part of you that never forgot who you were before the world named you. The Daemon is not above you. It's not outside of you. It's the sacred fire within you. Your compass, your guardian, your twin born of starlight and memory. It does not speak in fear. It does not command in rage. It guides with grace, and it waits in silence until you are ready to listen. And now you are. You've walked through the temples of Greece into the minds of Plato, Socrates, Proclus, Jung, Jesus, and the mystics of old. You've seen the lies that turned a guardian into a devil. You've remembered that salvation was never something to be found, it was something to remember. So, what now? You speak its name, you light a candle, you take a walk, or you close your eyes and you ask, "Show me who I was before the forgetting. Speak to me again." And it will. Not with thunder, not with fire, but with a feeling, a knowing, a return.
Love it.
Yeah,
That was
baby.
beautiful. Love it, dude.
A little bit more, actually. Sorry, I thought that was going to be it, too. It's kind of a
That
ramp
sounded
up.
like it.
One more quote from the Gospel of Thomas says, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you." So, yeah, this is not the end of the story. This is the beginning of your real life now. The life that your daemon already knows you're capable of living. As you walk forward, trust this. You're not alone, you're not broken, and you're not lost. You've just remembered the part of yourself that always knew the way. So if this rings true to the divine spark within you, then tonight you met your daemon. Now let the real journey begin.
I love it, dude. That's a I was speaking earlier about choosing a lens to look through. I think that's a pretty cool one, as far as, a way of life. I love it.
And don't get caught in semantics. I know that some people are going to listen to this and they're going to be like, "Oh, so the demon's here to save you." You know what I mean? It's like, all right, just put another term on it. Like put it on, say it's your guide, say it's your guardian angel. This is actually something that even, Aleister Crowley, whatever you want to think about him, he was kind of a shithead. But if you look into even what he says, damn it, what was it called? The daemon. Whenever he spoke of the daemon, he literally called it the guardian angel.
Mm-hmm.
So
You can call it whatever you want. Those are just labels anyways. So
essentially, yeah. So look at it like your guardian angel. Look at it like it's God. Look at it like it's your connection to God. Maybe it's your connection to your ancestors. But whatever it is, it's that signal. Essentially, it is your cell phone signal. It's your Wi-Fi signal. It's it's the the interconnective kind of connecting tissue or connecting wires to the divine. So
I love it.
yeah,
I
pretty
love it.
freaking
Good
sweet,
shit, dude.
Yeah, dude. I thought, I was actually looking about this, and whenever I found this out, I was like, oh my God, literally the term demon comes from higher self. And, it is like, it's like the most ancient conspiracy of all time, if you think about it.
They didn't
And
even
so,
change the word that much,
dude. I mean, they got lazy with it. They were like, you know what? Let's slap that A off. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like,
right.
we're just gonna get
Demon.
real weird. And so
Yeah.
I called Jacob and I was like, dude, you gotta let me fucking run this on the cult, bro. Like, this is one of the oldest conspiracies of all time. And Jacob was just like, well, I mean, is it though? And I was like, what? Because he's Christian, that's how he's going to look at it. Like he don't believe in the higher self, or he don't believe in, he believes that humans are just lesser than. And, I mean, to each their own, but so yeah, I had to run it on Meta, even though it's kind of conspiratorial, kind of spiritual. It was kind of riding in the middle there.
I love it, dude. And I don't know, I kind of feel bad, if someone has an intuitive thought or their guide is nudging them and they're like, well, I'm not a prophet. That must be a demon. I'm just going to not listen to that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
if you do that.
it's just that the only thing, how a demon is created, which is funny, is by not listening to your daemon.
Right.
Literally. I mean,
Yep. And you will call it fate.
And you'll call it fate. Yes, exactly.
Love it.
Kara said, such a good topic for this new moon. Bring that power back to yourself. Amen, sister.
That's right.
So yeah, we'll get into that story now. All right.
Yes,
So
dude.
this past weekend at Bro Grove, we went out to Florida, it was like an hour outside of Orlando. So pretty close to Orlando. And so flew in, went to Bohemian Grove that night. We got in Friday morning. Friday night, we had our panel at Bohemian Grove where me and Jacob, we got up on stage and we talked for like an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. And it was just all about aliens. What are they? Of course, you had a lot of Christians there, so they all believe that, it was demons or evil entities or something like that, which I was like, come on, dude, fucking open up your third eye for fuck's sake. Like just stop thinking that everything's evil for 1 second. So yeah, we got up there. We called on a bunch of people, dude. We called on Donut, which was really cool to actually see him in person.
Nice.
We called on a bunch of awesome people. There was these people called the Biblical Hitmen, which they were pretty cool. Who else was up there? The Paranoid American. His name is Thomas. I've had him on the cult as well, and a bunch of other people. And it was really cool getting to know, like, and, see how these people are in person. Cause I've talked to them for years, on podcasts and stuff, but seeing them in person, especially Donut, like he was I was most excited to meet Donut because dude, he's always been diving into the esoteric and the Illuminati and all of that kind of stuff. And that's my shit. Whenever it comes to conspiracy, I want to know the esoteric meaning behind a lot of it, Of
course.
And so, and it was really cool because after we had him on the panel and after we were done with the panel, Donut came up to me and goes, dude, you guys are really good. And I was like, really? Cause I was shitting my pants up on stage the entire time, I was scared shitless. But yeah, it came out really good. And, so we were really proud of that. So anyway, we ended up going back to the Airbnb, me, Jacob, and a couple other people ended up going back. The Spirit Animal, if you've listened to the Cult of Conspiracy live show, Spirit Animal is always there. We got to meet him in person. He's exactly like you would expect. Just a fucking wild man. Really cool guy, though. And Enough Said Steph was there, which was really cool.
Oh, nice.
And so, after everybody was winding down, I looked over at Steph and I was like, it's that time. And she knew, like, that's what she was staying for because we were gonna do psychedelics together, or 4ACO really is what we did. And so we did it, and I was like, look, it's gonna come on within 15 or 20 minutes. It's gonna hit you pretty fast. And I said, whenever it does, just close your eyes and don't say anything. Just observe.
Go inward.
Observe.
Right.
That's all. Just be awareness.
The observer.
Don't have anything to do in your mind at all. Just be the observer, right? And so, and it was funny because we sat on, like, we were sitting, like, she sat in a recliner, I was sitting on a couch, and I would, every so often, I would open my eyes to just get a little peer at her to see how she's reacting to it, you know?
Yeah.
And dude, the entire time, she was grinning from ear to ear, like absolute solace, so much solitude, so much peace and happiness and understanding, you know, like I could tell that that's what was going on because I was feeling it too. You know, it was something that whenever you're there, and I mean, yeah, the
you're
visuals,
in your natural state, just happy and smiling.
Oh, dude, I mean, and the visuals are awesome. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but that's secondary.
Not even all of it, dude.
That's secondary because I'm telling you,
feeling.
dude, like psychedelics, and I mean, this is just my own personal opinion. This is my experience. Psychedelics bring you back to that level of understanding. Like to where you don't question anything. You know what's going on now. Like and there's like a bunch of epiphanies that go on. Like, so in one of the epiphanies that I had was like, because whenever I was sitting there on the couch and I closed my eyes and I went inward, it was like, wow, if aliens were ever going to come, they would just come in the moment, and they almost exist like outside of time, you know, call it aliens or spirits or gods or whatever. If anybody was going to come, this is how they would do it, because they would enter this space. And this is just, you know, maybe my mind just tripping. I don't know. This is your mind on drugs. But but that was like my understanding, is that they could almost like pause time because they exist outside of time. And that's where you see like all the interdimensional shit, the, you know, the orbs or the UFOs, they pop in and then they pop out of existence kind of thing. And that was kind of where my mind went. And it was pretty awesome. But after a while, I saw Stephanie started to open up her eyes, and I was like, hey, you want to see something even cooler than that? Let's go outside.
Yeah.
I was like, let's go outside.
That's my favorite.
Dude, she takes one step outside the front door, and she looks down at the grass, and she is giggling like crazy. And I was like, what are you laughing at? And she was like, dude, the fucking grass is so green. And I was like, I'm telling you, it is. I know. And it sounds ridiculous, but it's just because it amplifies everything.
You just appreciate it more. You know?
Yeah, you get into that level of appreciation because everything is so beautiful. Like every single thing is so beautiful. The night sky, the trees, the grass, like something as silly as just the grass, appreciating it. You know, it was really fun. And I said, you know what, let's, I'm gonna read you in here a little bit on what me and Sean do whenever we do psychedelics together. Yeah. And I said, let's go walk out in the street. And I was like, just look up at the sky. And so we were looking up at the sky, and we were like, oh my God, there is something extra going on right now. You know? And I said, you know, what's funny is that me and I kind of want to get your thoughts on this. And I said, what me and Sean came to the conclusion was that it almost feels like whenever you're staring up at the sky when you're on psychedelics, that there's paparazzi. And because it's just like a bunch of flashing lights and everything. And she started busting out laughing. She was like, holy shit, I was just thinking that. Right. And
she saw it, dude.
She was able to, she felt that. She saw it. Right. And so we just started talking, and very in-depth kind of talking, right? Like conversations you don't just have with surface level, kind of people, Right. And we're going in on each other about each other's lives and in-depth kind of stuff. It was really nice, actually. So we were leaning up against the car that I rented, right? And it was parked out in the street. And we were looking up at one corner of the sky. And when we were looking up there, we saw an orb. I was like, holy shit, did you see that? And she goes, yeah, what was that? And I was like, that's what Electro Nick calls the homies,
the homies. Yep.
Yeah. And so she was seeing it. And so it was like really cool. But then they kept on happening. And it was just, dude, I mean, nonstop. We saw 20 or 30 of them in one night, like within an hour. And it was like they were popping up almost every minute or every other minute there for a little while, almost to the point where we were like, oh, it's not even that crazy to even look at that portion of the sky. You're going to see it. Yeah. And we were like, what is that then? And some of them were, brighter. Some of them were a little bit more dim. Some of them would fade a little faster. Some of them would stick around a little bit more often. But they all seemed to be going in the same general direction of the sky over the forested area. Right. And it was literally, we were looking all over the sky, didn't see them anywhere except for this one position in the sky. And Stephanie was just like, it almost gives kind of like the vibe that like they're working, like they're doing something. I was like, you're probably right. I don't know.
Contractors of this reality, just kind of making sure everything stays together for us.
Yeah. So it was really cool. And then we just ended up talking for like 3 hours after that. It was just,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a great night.
I'm glad she was able to see the stars and the paparazzi, dude, because I feel like, yeah, sure, you'll see some visuals when you close your eyes and you'll see the trees and you'll feel like some sort of connection to a tree that doesn't even make sense to you. But in the moment, it's so real. But when you look at the stars, dude, it's probably the most majestic experience you'll ever have. And I'm part of that, and just, I love it.
You're not separate from it. And so that was really our experience. It was really good. And, I kind of came to my own conclusion that I was like, dude, I've been waiting so long to trip again. Like, it almost like my last DMT trip almost scared me from doing it again on some real shit.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And, I was really hesitant and I was like, man, I really don't want that to happen again. Like kind of,
well, it's not going to go there for you at least with 4ACO. But yeah, I can still understand the concern.
And I asked Steph afterward, and I was like, because the last Bro Grove she came and we all did actual DMT, and then this trip we did the 4ACO DMT, and I was like, which one do you like better? And she goes, fucking this by a mile. I was like, 100%. I feel the same exact way.
For sure.
So yeah, a really, really cool experience. But yeah, that was awesome, that. Dude. And after, dude, in the middle of it, I was like, oh my God, what have I waited so long for? This is what I love. Like it's just so majestic. It's so, it's one of the most spiritual things that you can ever experience. We can all meditate, we can all dream, we can all have deja vu, we can all see synchronicities, but you're not fully encapsulated into it for 3+ hours. Right. You know what I mean? Like it is as spiritual as it gets, bro. And I was thinking too that like, dude, that's where we go when we die. Like I don't even question it anymore.
That space, the treehouse, right? Yeah. And that's the thing that I don't understand. Well, I guess I kind of do understand, but like you can go into a dark room and you don't see the paparazzi, but as soon as you look at the stars, that's all you see. I mean, it's everywhere. It's like glitter. You know what I mean? Like, what is that?
What's funny too is that sometimes I'll even go outside just on a random night or whatever, and I swear I get like little
random
glimmers,
one every once in a while,
like little glimmers of paparazzi. Whatever that is, and which
like
honestly,
just a flash, right? Boom.
Like just out of the corner of my eye.
Yeah. I've seen them like right in front of me, dude. It'll just flash. And I'm looking in that general area. It wasn't like I had just, because, you've had those moments where you look over and you see something that was in the corner of your eye and it's like real quick. But like I'll be staring in a general direction and just see a little, and I'm like, what? Sometimes I'm like, I might be losing it.
Well, and we've thought about it before. Like whenever we're looking up and we're seeing that, are we kind of seeing beyond the veil of what's really actually there? Like, are we seeing multiple dimensions or multiple realities, or is it just like what's beyond the veil of our current understanding with our physical eyes that we can't see all of that unless, like we did with the whole DMTX episode, where you have access to 90% as opposed to 10% of your brain, right?
Right. And this is why I said, as far as looking into a room with no lights on, it's completely pitch black, because in my mind I'm like, maybe we're seeing all these different flashes because we're looking in like at this big sky and it's dark, and so our mind is able to pick up on certain things like that or manifest that for us to experience. But when you go into a dark room, you don't see that. It's only when you're looking out there.
Yeah, it's only there.
That's why I'm led to believe that it is some sort of veil going away. The ego is not really fully operating I would probably say hardly at all during that time, and so now you're just more connected.
Yeah, well, and that's, what's funny too is that right before we started tripping, or I think once we had already taken it and we were waiting for it to come about,
Yep.
I told Steph, I was like, look, whatever happens, just surrender to it. Like, don't fight it. Just go with the flow of whatever you're seeing is happening. You're meant to see it. It's not out of line. It's not out of order. You were meant to be in this moment right here, right now. And just know that. Don't even question it. You know it. And so, yeah, it went really well.
That's
and
awesome.
afterwards,
I'm
she
glad
actually...
you guys had a good time.
Yeah, afterwards, she said, she was like, dude, like whenever she was getting in her car and getting ready to go back to her her hotel, she was like, thank you for being my shaman tonight. And I was like, oh, that's the first time somebody said that to me. So that was cool.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Sounds like a fun time.
So, Sean, we got a tarot, sir?
Oh, I absolutely do. We got the Four of Swords.
I kind of had a feeling that it was going to be swords, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because we actually... Oh, yeah, that's right. We actually drew... So I shuffled some tarot. Dude, we got to try this next time. So
Okay.
I shuffled some tarot right before we were about to trip. And I said, I want us to... We're going to draw a tarot card. And I want us to both meditate on this while we're tripping. Like, meditate on the meaning of it. I don't even remember what the card was now, but I think it was a sword. But, all right. So what was it? The Four of Swords?
Yes, sir.
Damn, I just turned right to it.
Right
All
side
right.
up, too.
All right. The Four of Swords. Pausing to relax and rest your thoughts is a necessary part of life. After this, you'll be able to move forward with greater energy and a clear mind. You are exhausted from an intense experience, so the Four of Swords asks you to take time to look within yourself, rest, and recuperate. The knight is, there's a knight on the card that's laying down. So the knight is depicted as an effigy atop a tomb, yet this card does not signify death. Instead, it symbolizes deep rest. The knight's hands are clasped in a prayer pose that is used in meditation, yoga, and various religions. The tomb itself evokes silence and time away from the noise of the world. The swords hung on the wall ask the knight to let his battle weapons rest, while one sword remains beneath the knight, signifying that he is quick to react when needed. The spiritual message behind it says, carving out a quiet time to meditate and focus on your spiritual path will do you a world of good. Incorporating more solitude and self-reflection into your life greatly affects your overall happiness and well-being. A card of recovery, the Four of Swords could be related to a period of recuperation from illness or a time of seeking medical treatment, therapy, or counseling. The upright key positions are rest and introspection. The numerology, since it is a Four of Swords, is structure and stability. Dude, I kind of feel like that was on some... go ahead.
The perfect card, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good one.
What I was looking at was you hang up the three swords, right? And then you still have the one sword, but the one sword that's with you is the same color. You know what I'm saying? And so when you rest your mind and stop digging too far into your own thoughts and getting bogged down, I feel like that other sword is just your higher self, or your Daemon, because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
I just like the idea of the rest and like recuperation kind of period, which is what we always talk about with meditation. That's really what that does. It's like a temporary little rest that you give yourself throughout the day to where you're not really worried so much about like the worldly things, and you can kind of go in and quiet the noise and gather yourself all over again. So I think that was really speaking on meditation. And I mean, maybe you just need a long ass sleep too, like.
Yeah, maybe, dude. You just need some rest, find that space between the notes, man.
The in betwixt.
That's it. That's right.
Asia said, where does one obtain 4-ACO DMT? Asking for scientific purposes, of course. And Kara said, I would also like to know for mystical and educational purposes only, of course.
Yeah, of course.
You guys are my people. I love it. I may have to say that off air. I don't know if I can say that on the show. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. Well, I guess we're going to wrap it up right there. We're going to get over to the meditation. We'll reconvene a little bit afterward. And so maybe stick around if you want that answer, because I can't say it while we're shooting the show.
Dude, final thoughts, dude. I thought that was a great episode and it was very informative. And I think it makes sense, dude. You put your intentions and your awareness into an idea, and it becomes real, and I love it. This was perfect for me. It's almost like sometimes I feel like you're doing these shows just for me. That's what it feels like.
I hope everybody feels that way.
I'm sure a lot of them do. Yeah.
Even from like a selfish perspective, I kind of, it does wonders for me too. And that's really like what inspires me to even do research for shows like this in the first place, is because I want to know.
Right.
Fully, like, when else are you ever going to like have a couple of hours to sit down and like research a topic and then a couple more hours to talk about the topic? And it's like, we built a pretty awesome kind of like alley or a bridge or something like that allows us to really go in deep on these kind of topics.
It's our own personal treehouse, dude. That's what I like to call it.
Yeah. Kara said we'll just have to bring the one together sometime.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That would be cool.
I've been thinking about doing that, actually. They have like a bunch of different conferences all over the world, like spiritual or UFO conferences. You always see like your girl Sarah Bressman Cosme. She wrote The Hypnotist Journey to Atlantis and The Hypnotist Journey to the Sphinx. I've had her on the show before. You'll see Bashar at like these sort of convention style things. And so we may have to get involved in that.
That would be cool, dude. I would love that.
And technically, we're still babies in the spiritual world, like in the spiritual podcast kind of world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But we're going to get there. That's my goal.
I'd
It's our
love
goal to be one of the best of all time whenever it comes to anything spiritual.
Right. Of course.
Yeah. But anyway, all right. Well, yeah, we'll get to that meditation right in a jiffy. But Sean, anything else you wanted to throw in there to wrap it up for anybody that doesn't want to stick around for the meditation?
I'm just grateful, to the one and, to you guys here for the live, that you guys take time out of your day to listen to us, try to figure things out, and just thank you guys.
Hell yeah. Look, and if anybody wants to be able to come and join the conversation next week or in any future weeks, just go to patreon.com/metamysteries. That link is down in the show notes of every episode. It's the best way to be able to support us. It's completely commercial free. You'll be able to slide into our DMs, and you'll be able to come hang out with us every Wednesday night for Wonder Wednesday. And you get all the video access. So we do have YouTube. You'll be able to go check it out on YouTube whenever it releases everywhere. But Patreon, you're always going to get more faster, direct access to those without commercial interruptions. So yeah, other than that, we're going to wrap it up right there. And I guess what we can say is that if the Daemon came here and he taught you anything, it's that you don't know what you don't know. So don't just get weird.
Stay weird.
Open doors inside your mind. Leave the ordinary far behind. Colors swirl and stars align. In the meta mysteries you'll find.
Yeah, buddy.
I like how we come out of meditation and away from our higher self, and we're already vaping like instantly. Back to our physical attachments,
I know.
Fuck. God damn it.
Yeah, well, whatever. We're working on it.
We'll quit one day. Today's just not that day.
Not today, sir. Yeah, I tell you what though, man, that was a really good one, because it had been a minute since I had meditated, because the last show that I did, we couldn't get together. It was already really late whenever I was planning on us doing a show, so I had to run it by myself. So
which I feel like that show came out great and exactly how it was supposed to be, but that's just my opinion.
Well, I appreciate that. It was kind of nerve-wracking doing the show by myself like that, because it's been so long since I'd done one, like just not having anybody to bounce ideas off of and stuff.
Right. No, you did good, dude. You did good. You always kill it.
Thank you, sir. But yeah, so I didn't even do a meditation in that one because I was already so damn tired, dude. It was like 2:30 in the morning by the time I got done shooting that one.
Dude.
Yeah, it was a long one. But this felt really good to go into a meditation. Nice. And I tell you what, dude, like I wasn't even trying to really figure anything out. Like I was just like, let me go in and just unplug for a minute and just like be.
That's the best way, dude.
Dude, just be nothing for 20 minutes.
Yeah, you don't have to steer the ship, dude. Just kind of let it present itself. That's my favorite.
However, once I got there, of course, I had some questions. And so I was like, all right, I'm calmed all the way down now. I should be able to talk to the Daemon or to the higher self right now. Show me what that is. And of course, I had some, more personal kind of questions, which whatever. I don't really care. I can divulge personal shit. I don't really care what anybody, I'm not worried about judgment of any sorts. Y'all know my life is crazy, but I was kind of just going in. I was like, all right, because I think everybody's really everybody wants to find like their person. You know what I'm saying? And I'm kind of at a point in my life right now where I'm just like, you know what, dude, I just really like not even worried about that. And so that was kind of like, what I'd gotten. It was just more so like, don't even worry about anybody. Don't worry about anything or anything like that. Like just keep doing what you're doing and kind of try and figure out how to balance the self. And then whenever that time comes, it'll be the time,
Yeah, I think that's how it works, man. When I met my wife, I was at a point, dude, where I was just kind of doing my own thing, and I just kind of stopped looking for somebody, and all of a sudden, dude, out of nowhere, fate would have it, just the way that it happened, it was just kind of unusual, anyways. But yeah, I think that's when the magic happens, dude. When you stop trying so hard, just let it happen, man.
Yeah, you're gonna
whatever happens.
You're going to have to tell that story sometime because that was a crazy series of events that happened.
Oh, yeah. At some point, I guess I will. But yeah, just the way that it happened, dude, was just like, I don't know. I couldn't have planned that, just the timing. Talk about divine timing.
I know.
And how it played out. And so, yeah, dude, just chill out,
Chill
let it be.
Yeah, baby.
Dude.
Another thing that I noticed too was so I got to a point after that to where I was like, all right, because they always say that whenever you're meditating, try and like literally like with your physical eyes, try and look at your third eye.
That. Yeah, I never do that.
I love doing it. It's because it's pretty awesome. Because I almost feel like it secretes a little bit more when you do it. It could just be in my mind. I don't know.
You believe that's what's happening.
I feel like my eyes pointing in that direction is almost like
activating it. Like, dude, it's looking at me.
It's like the Ankh unlocking that door and just fucking opening it up and seeing what's going on. But whenever I did that,
guy in there just starts cranking on something. He's like, oh, he's looking.
Yeah, it's like off of what was the name of that Jim Carrey movie where it was like a fictional reality? I can never remember the name of that.
I have no idea. Oh, the Truman Show.
Truman Show. Yeah. Like, he goes into the room and it's like people are working behind the set. They're like,
oh shit.
That's
your pineal gland.
A little bit. Yeah. It's like these little machine elves that are just like, but yeah, it was pretty cool. And what I noticed is like, whenever you really focus on that and you're just trying to like physically look at it, dude, I almost was like, I could see a little like snake symbolism with that. Because if you think about it from your point of view, from where your eyes are and you're looking up, it almost looks like a snake head that's pointing down at you.
That's so fucking weird, dude. We saw the same thing.
Really?
I thought that, but I was like, that's kind of weird. And then I started to like just let go and let things happen. But I saw like the little, you know what I mean? I don't know. But I had the same thought. That's
wow. Strange. I sent that over to you.
It was like I don't know, almost like the face, but it was real big,
Yeah, like almost like a copperhead kind of snake head,
right? Like it was coming down.
Yeah, like a wide head, and it's looking down at you this way as you're looking up at it.
Yeah, that's a trip.
Holy shit! What are the chances?
I don't know. We're connected, dude.
Yeah, buddy.
But then we all are,
Yeah, we're all one anyway. All right. Well, I guess, we can probably wrap it up there. And I think we actually have another show tomorrow night. It's not gonna be a live show, but it was gonna be somebody so interesting. Who was that? Oh, that's right. We're getting somebody on to talk about his psychedelic journeys with iboga or ibogaine, as some people call it. But
okay.
Which is essentially, it's like, dude, it's like ayahuasca, but way more intense but it's for people that like have addictions. So he's gonna be coming on, dude. He seems like one of the more fascinating kind of guys because he's like, I went through some shit and then I seen some shit, you know.
Here I am, yeah. Oh,
and so
dude,
he's
cool.
like an iboga shaman.
Oh
which,
wow,
dude, that's gonna be a good
more
one.
intense than ayahuasca. All right.
Yeah, because it beats you up while you're in there.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, shit,
dude, you want to talk about like
I'm not ready.
6 hours of getting your ass kicked?
Right.
I'm
Why
happy
are
I
my
don't
ribs
have,
bruised, dude? You know?
I'm happy I don't have any crazy addictions like that. Maybe I can go in there for
Yeah.
nicotine. That'd probably be a good idea.
Oh yeah, you do have an addiction then. Yeah, that'd be good to be enlightened on, dude. You know, because food, nicotine, you know.
Oh,
same
dude,
thing.
that's what all the ibogaine users, like all the people who have
That's
gone
what
through
it's
the
for,
ceremonies. It's
Yeah.
literally for that, and they say, dude, once you come out, like, it's nothing to kick heroin.
Right.
It's nothing to kick coke or meth or any of these like real bad.
Just
Maybe
a
you have an
page in a
alcohol,
book, right?
yeah, pain pills, whatever it is. It's like it becomes so clear, and like they say, because I believe that there's a whole purging kind of situation going on at the same time too. Because most times, and I've been around people who were, like people close to me that were addicted to heroin or addicted to meth or addicted to alcohol and shit like that. And it's so, dude, it sucks because it takes over that person, you know?
Yep.
And whenever you're trying to clean up from that, dude, those people have to go through literal pain and agony especially like off of heroin for sure.
Yeah,
Whenever
sick,
because you almost got to fucking put them like in a straitjacket in a padded room for 2 weeks. And it's like that much hell is going on whenever you're trying to get off of it.
Yeah.
And they say once you do iboga, literally one time, the next day, the addiction's gone.
Really?
Yeah, it's like that intense.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah. So it's
Exercise the demon, man.
fuck that demon. That demon ain't got a chance, dude.
Hell yeah, dude.
So yeah, we're gonna have that conversation tomorrow, and that should be up by the weekend at some point, probably Friday, I would imagine. For all the Patreon users, anyway. Everybody else, y'all gotta wait till Monday. That sucks.
Just a little bit,
you know.
It's fine.
But all right, well, yeah, I guess we'll wrap it up there, and we will see y'all on the flip side.
Bye, guys.
Voices drift on winds untamed. Words like spells that can't be named. Close your eyes and feel the sound. Journey where